So I just would like to start with the fact that we have always heard about how multiple filmmakers since since time immemorial, since the birth of cinema, they have brought stories to life despite having limited resources. And you have mentioned this very clearly in multiple interviews that the budget of the film was on the lower side. So, but one thing that we can note is that the fact that the characters are in the same home for, let's say, 80% of the film, they are in the same house. So I would love to understand that, was this decision in any ways motivated or influenced by the lack of resources because you had limited resources, or this was your very first creative choice from day one? Like, the ideation of this process was always the fact that, okay, we are going to do something of this sort, or did it became a decision because you also had limited resources?
No, like the answer is both. Like I've said it in many interviews. Like this movie happened because Vinay Ford came and asked me whether I could do a movie with all these friends. So I knew that I had to cast 11, 11 men in it, and nine of them being new actors, like absolutely new actors who have not acted in movies before. And this is my debut film as well. So when you embark on this journey of making a movie with so many new actors, and then I'm a very pragmatic person also on one side, because then I know that it is going to be difficult. It's going to be a difficult task to find a producer, and also with the kind of movies that I want to make. It is like borderline serious also. I don't. Even though I love watching all the proper masala movies, probably maybe I don't have the cut in me to make those sort of things, at least as of now. So so there is a certain kind of movies that I want to make. Uh, so so when I knew that all these people are going to be new and I'm a debut director, I knew that it'll be practically difficult to find a producer if the budget is big. So it had to be a situation where if when I'm presenting the story, the producer should feel, "Arey, yeah, this is borderline intense, serious, and all. But if done well, we can recover the money." So I had to present the story which will make him feel so. So it was there in the very initial thought. It was then only then the story was developed. I knew that I had to make a small film. I didn't want to run around for a long time trying to find a producer, and I don't believe in all those things. I don't believe in all those stories of struggles and stuff and all. I don't want to, bring those things to my life, even though it is true otherwise. So I knew that I wanted to make a small movie from the small budget movie from the very start. But then, so I had a real good amount of limitations, but that those limitations really help. So you're focused to think in a certain path. So that focus also bring the best in that available path. So that was how it was developed. Yeah.
Right, right. And like you said that, again, coming to the same thing that yes, when the resources are limited, then your mind runs in a different way. And I have been fortunate to get, a lot of opportunities recently to talk to people like you and try to understand their process. And sometimes when they talk about, key, we were not having that much of budget, but we came up with this idea. And when you think about it in retrospect, you are nothing but amazed, because it's like you call that in Hindi apada mein afsar. So I think that also happened with Aattam in a lot of different ways, which is why the film ended up becoming so beautiful. Like, for example, I've heard that in Black Swan there are scenes which Aronofsky shot with an iPhone 5s. Now you would think, wait, why would he do that? But I mean, he just did, and I think that just worked out for him. So that is always there. There is one feeling that I was left with after watching Atom, and this is something that I have also been thinking about. And the fact is that that feeling is using art as a means of revenge. Because when you finish watching Atom and the way the film ends, the way we see a play about a play, and then you have that multi-layered narrative and what all it conveys. So then you start wondering, wait, can art be a means to, you know, show revenge? Like you are, like Anjali was not able to say it out loud, but then she, and this is something that gets pointed out in the film as well, by the other actors, that, you know, why can't we deal it like artists? So she was like, wait, let me deal it like an artist, let me deal with it like an artist, and I'll show you what art can do. So I would love to know your thoughts on this, that because you have exhibited the power of art, and when we say art, we are talking about filmmaking, visual storytelling, and like visual and sound, of course. So I would love to know your thoughts on this, because, like, have you ever thought of the fact that art as a means of, you know, of course, we would always like to share our beliefs and our thoughts as storytellers, but like something that can turn out as a means of revenge. That is something that I was left, that is something that I really connected with, because I had also been thinking of the same, that can art be used as that kind of a medium? So I would love to know your thoughts on this.
Yeah, like for me, probably revenge is a stronger word. Like, and even if we take about if we talk about the movie itself, and if we talk about how Anjali used the medium of theater, uh, I doubt, when I was writing it, I was writing it as Anjali, right? So I'm thinking of how Anjali would, in retrospect, think about all the experiences. And like, because Anjali is an artist, like if you see the movie, when she's getting this first thought of making this into a play while she's traveling in the auto rickshaw, like she's having a glimpse. There's a forward flash cut. So that is only moment where we've used any other transition in the movie other than the normal cuts also. So just an info there. So there's a flash forward where she gets a glimpse of the possibility. She's seeing a possibility of a play from what had just happened in her life. So that happens to all artists, like all filmmakers and all artists. Like whenever they are in any situation, be it maybe they are at the funeral of their close ones, but still they see a possibility of an exposition of some sort of art at that given situation, right? So this happens to all artists. So Anjali being an artist, I knew that, even though she's going through some deep crisis, she has just left her boyfriend, and she's just ended a relationship, and she's traveling in the other direction. She just suddenly saw whatever has happened in her life right now on that day has a possibility of what she just realized, that what theatrics, what actors, like what a possibility of a play. And she just gets a glimpse of it. Now then she goes on, and to have a glimpse is a different thing, and to pursue it and to do it is a different thing altogether. So she might have done that play, say 1 year later. She might have gone written the script, and cast the actors and all those things. So for her, it is not necessarily a matter of revenge. It is a matter of her inference from what had happened. It is, so for me, art is a very, very powerful medium. I was talking to somebody last day also. Like for me, art is that significant junction between the beyond and the deceptive and the world that we are in. It is a point of U-turn where, where art has its roots in the world, yet it carries some fragrance of the beyond. Like it is right in some junction where, art has a serious possibility of taking you to places that you won't get to otherwise while you are, transacting in the world. So why are we pursuing art in the first place? Why are we doing? So there is some deep sense of voidness within, which cannot be complete in the world of transactions, in the world of any other way. So even when Anjali is doing this play, she has gone through some deep trauma, so she has to come up with some meaning. So there, even if she's going for a case, or even if she's going to find justice through all the legal ways and all, that is still part of the world. That might still not, give a meaning to her own life of, that she has been with that group for the past 16 years. So all those things. For me, the final play was her insight into what had happened. So she is realizing that there was a crime, there was somebody who had assaulted her, and there was then the auditing of the crime, the second crime. Then she's realizing that, in a way, all the other men were similar or potentially capable of doing something like that because they exhibited it through their through how they were not ready to trust her in that audit. So for me, it is more of art as a space where you can have a certain insight or an inference where it can elevate you, both both the artist and the viewer as well. We call rasiga, no? So that is how I conceive art. Like, probably not as a medium of revenge. Like I wouldn't do something if, say, something like, something happened, somebody did something to me in my life, and then I can take inspiration from that. I can take inspiration from that. I can take some insights into it, and but I will not do a movie for that person, to say something to that person. That is too much of importance for that person, and that is not the way I think an art should be handled. And that will not reach to the people as well. That will still remain very personal between those two people. So yeah, that's it.
Right. I think, like you just said, I think catharsis should be a better word. That art
Right,
is
right,
a
right, right, right.
means of
100%.
catharsis. Right.
Yes.
And it was very cathartic, not just for Anjali, but for everyone watching the film. Because even when all the actors who were a part of, who are probably still a part of that theater group, when they see Anjali doing that same play, which is just, like a flashback of all the
Right,
events, and the
right,
way it ends when she says, you guys, like, it doesn't matter who it
right,
is, because
right,
for me everyone is the same. So I
right.
think that was, yeah, you're right, catharsis is, I think, a better word to
Correct.
imply here.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
speaking of theater and theater performance, we see that here in this film, the actors are, like I mentioned in the beginning as well, the actors are restricted to performing in a limited space. And then
Right.
you, like, as in, when you talk about the medium of theater, the actors are anyways restricted to
Mm,
performing in a limited space. And then you have, in this film, you have everyone performing inside the same house
right,
for 80% of the film. So did
right,
that
right.
similarity of environment help you as a director?
Um, uh, yes and no, because when you're directing a play, I have directed theater plays as well. So when you're directing a play, you're working. If you have to compare it to the film, you're only working on a wide frame because that is the only angle that the audience get to see. You don't get to see the any audience sitting in the as part watching a play don't get to see the any other. They don't get to see any of the axis. They don't get to cut close or any. If an actor is standing with his back to the audience, he's not going to get to see the face of the person. But cinema is not like that. So the blocking of cinema, even if it is in one singular location, it is totally different. It is totally different. So it has to be cinematic. But the good, interesting thing about chamber dramas is you take any chamber drama in the world that has ever come, it'll always look like a play because in our psyche, deep unconscious in our psyche, we as humans have grown watching plays, right? So it looks similar because the background is not changing. Because in place, the space is not changing. I mean, so in chamber dramas also, the background, the space, the location is not changing. So you feel like it is a play. And the great thing about it is theater or play is, for me personally, is a much powerful medium than cinema itself for the viewer. When he's watching, when you're watching something in live, when you're watching a play, if it is a good play, I'm talking about a good play or a good cinema, if it is a good intense theater, the kind of experience that you get when you're watching a play as an individual is much more intense than what you get as in a movie. So when the movie itself is a chamber drama, you also get the added benefits of what a viewer would get when he's watching a play, because he would get similar experiences very close to that. He will feel that he is right there. He is right there. He has known them for a long time. They're like live people there, right there. Unless and until you shoot it very badly. Like if you end up shooting a chamber drama very cinematically with a lot of music and all the other the dramatics of cinema, then you lose it, then you kill it. Otherwise, I can take all the good things that I could get from theater when you're doing a chamber drama. Yes,
Right, right. I agree because you also in this film you did not go for very uh, dramatic camera movement. Like you did not like have a dolly zoom or you did not have
no,
anything of that sort. Ki, "Arey
right,
yaar, oh, this looks nice." But will it actually serve the story? So that also I think restores the fact that yeah, this film will eventually turn out to be a play that will be performed by Anjali's group, and since it also has theater actors, so I think that kind of emotional similarity of watching a play, like you tried to uh, you did not try to dissect too much between a theater and cinema. You tried to
right,
merge them together
yeah, yeah,
as much as possible
yeah,
without having, like you said, you did not have anything very dramatic, since it is a cinematic medium. You just, like you just said, blocking and staging, which is precisely I was going to come to, that you had multiple camera angles to show people and their faces and different angles,
right,
and
right,
not show anyone's back like happens in theater. So I would love
right.
to now love for you to expand on the blocking and staging part. How did you,
Well,
like, once you were on location inside the house, how did you plan the blocking and staging ki acha aap yahan rahenge, okay, this is how you are going to come, and this is of course I this is also a way to understand how blocking and staging actually happens in a
right,
film. So I would love for
right.
you to expand on that.
Like, you know what? We did about 35 days of scene rehearsals before the shoot. So, but it was in a different house, and we were just like, because I wanted the actors to get, acclimatized with this whole acting in front of camera. So we did the rehearsals with camera. So at that point, we used to do the blockings, the ins and the exits, and all this stuff, and like whatever little properties that were there and all, we used that. So for 35 days we did rehearsals, and then we went to that location, that particular house, and we did rehearsals for about 7 days. So at that point, even the cinematographer was there, so we were planning all the major blocking part had to be done there, because it is very difficult to stage and block this, because there are always 13 actors in every scene, almost 10 to 13 actors in every scene. So the continuity, the toughest part is the continuity, and because they are not like seasoned film actors, because they are coming from theater, it was very difficult for them to have an understanding or a grip on continuity. So everybody would do something else in different angles, and it used to, it we had to have a lot of rehearsals and instructions to keep that right. So in terms of the blocking, the initial discussion with Anirudh is a cinematographer, and it is his first movie as well. So our initial discussion was that it has to come out where the audience is feeling, the viewer is feeling that he's right there as the 14th person. He has to come out as somebody who's part of the discussion. It should not the audience should not watch the movie from a space of objectiveness. He should not be very relaxed and watching it. Yeah, something is happening in that house, and like that sort of a thing should not come up. It should we should pull in the viewer from the very first scene. So if you have seen, we have taken a there is a continuity of staging and blocking from the very first scene. Like we have from where it starts in the like in the stage, like the green room, how it has been staged. So we took an approach where we like I said that 80% to 90% of the movie will be handheld. There will be a certain breathe, and also if you have observed the movie, there is a lot of uh, passings in front of the camera, like which you wouldn't see otherwise in movies, which you might see like if it is not done well, and if it is not in rhythm, it can really take you off the film, like and but those things were very much needed so that it looks very real. There is and like if you have seen that there could be somebody saying a dialogue, like say Madan is saying a dialogue, and he's out of focus, but the focus is on Anjali, and because you at that point, I want you to hear the dialogue. I don't want you to see how is saying it or who is saying it. Of course, you see in a blurry, that it is this person, but you want to at that point, when I know that all that I want you to feel is how Anjali is going to feel about this particular dialogue. So there are so many spaces where dialogues come from people who are not in the frame, and or people who are just out of focus, or who are right at the edge of the frame, or something like that. So we have tried all those things, and like if you have observed, like till the point where Anjali comes into that house, which is at the second half of the movie, later stages of the second half. Till that point, we had used lenses, say from 18 to 35, 18, 28, 35, and only at a few instances 50. So after Anjali comes, we move to the portrait lenses, like from 50 to 85s and the hundreds. So till then, like how I was not really judgmental about the characters, I wanted the audience also to just understand the space, the people, the characters. So we are not going to give any prominence to anything. We are not. We'll hardly cut. We'll hardly cut to the close-ups and all, unless and until it is very necessary. So we always kept a deep focus. So you're just watching it. So you're just forming the ideas. You're just forming an understanding of the people, understanding of the space, understanding of the situation, and slowly and very steadily we shift the lenses, and as and how you've got a grip on the people, as and how you've got a clear understanding of what psyche each character is representing, we've moved the lenses to the 50s and the 85s and the 100s. So in the later stages, towards the last 20 minutes of the movie, you see that there are more close-ups, and almost all of it are shot in from 50 to from the range of 50 to 100. So because by that time you know the characters, every whatever each character says is so important. So that was how it was approached. And in terms of blocking, we had to do a lot of rehearsals to make it look very real, because this is something that every screenplay book asks you to avoid, which is to have a conversation around the table. They say that it'll be very boring. So we had to have, because this is such a sensitive topic, and such a sensitive, when such a serious issue is presented, obviously people are going to sit, or people just cannot take it casually and roam around talking about this topic, and they cannot talk about anything else as well. So obviously there is going to be a table, so we had to use whatever properties or ideas that could come, which will not alienate people from the scene, but still to make it alive, where people can move a bit, go charge their phone, or bring the coffee in, or then suddenly, because we had to change the location, like we use this thing of the inverter is not working and it's getting hot, so they have to go out of the place, and two people would go to check the inverter, and so we had to come up with ideas where there are movements, so that we were consciously looking forward for ideas to inculcate. So those were things that were considered. Yeah.
Right. And again, I would like to go a little deeper into this. So,
Sure.
firstly, this might sound like a very kind of a stupid question, but
No, no, no,
did
please.
you guys actually look for a house that has to be a certain way, where we can have like a big dining table, where we actually have a ceiling, a floor that is right above, so we can frame it accordingly, and we have a staircase that actually looks
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that in the
I'll
film?
tell you. Yeah, I got your question. I'll tell you. Like, I had all those things. I wanted a staircase. I wanted it to be two floors. But the significant part of looking for a location for a house was that it has to be at a place where the surroundings are very silent, because the movie was shot in sync sound. So this is not dubbed.
Okay.
So it is very difficult to shoot a movie in sync sound, especially if it is a small, limited budget movie. You have to have such crew and people to control the surroundings and the areas and all. So we wanted a place where the surroundings are very silent and calm. So I had no option but to go to a remote place far away from the city to shoot this. So that was the first important thing that we took into consideration. So, and I also wanted a house where, of course, like I wanted a staircase and stuff, so that there's some movement, there's some angles that could be covered. There could be some dialogue which could happen from the stair to the table and all the stuff. And I wanted the house to be slightly big, or to have two stories, because there can be different group of people at the different parts of the house to have conversations. Like, somebody is having a conversation in the kitchen, and like, somebody in the top floor will not hear, so they can have their fair share of secretive conversations and all those things. So I wanted a house like that. And I
Right.
also wanted a house where once they get out of the space, if there is a river that is flowing close by, that could give because this is a chamber drama, that could give a sense of change of location, at least some breathing space
Right.
when there is rain and there is wind and all. But that was all written in the script. It should give a change of location, something to look forward to, in a sense. Like, otherwise it is too much in one space, too much in one room. I didn't want the audience to get too tired of being in the same space, but still you cannot go to a different space also. So I wanted a house where you, once you get out of the house or go to the backyard of the house, there is a river flowing close by and all. Unfortunately, I got this house. Yeah, it was suggested by my sound designer, so I went to this place and we got it. Yeah.
Nice, nice. And you also didn't want the audience to feel claustrophobic. You wanted
Yeah.
them to get involved, but also at the same time, कि अरे यार, let's get out of this. Yeah.
I wanted them to, yes, I wanted them to feel claustrophobic in a way also, like, but not to a point where they're too tired. So that is why they go out of the house, they come back to the house, they again go out of the house, they come back to the house. So there are 2 points where they go out of the house. One is when the inverter is not working, and then there is again, you're in an open area. Again, they come back to the house, they sign the letter to throw him out of the group, and then Hari comes, and Hari comes. He brings this whole Europe offer, and then they again go to the riverside to discuss, and so there is wind and everything, and then again they come back when Anjali is back in the house. So I wanted this thing to happen, yeah, the back and forth to happen. Yes.
That's great. It is these small decisions that really, create a larger impact, because you accordingly have to think of the location as well. And while you were talking about the conversation, another aspect that I don't know how much time it took, but editing the conversation, because when it comes to conversations, they should be edited in a certain way. Like, I got the chance to speak to Shweta Venkat Matthew, who edited Gangs of Wasipur and a
Hmm.
lot more other films.
Hmm.
So she and I were kind of discussing about how conversations need to be edited in order to feel everything is synced, and you have to
Right.
mix and match all the camera angles. So what
Right.
was like it for you in the editor's room when you were editing the conversation, especially the conversation scenes where a lot of confrontation and back and forth is happening between different camera angles? How did you manage that one flow of this scenario?
Yeah, like, interestingly, the decisions of edit started off much earlier, even while I was writing the script. Like, how I have a huge thing for editing. Like, I think editing is the greatest thing that cinema has contributed. Otherwise, it is just a accumulation of all other art forms. If there is one thing that cinema has contributed, uh, or if there is one thing that makes cinema not just a combination of all other art forms, it is editing. Like how Tarantino always says that, has said that one great thing he said, the final draft of your film is the first cut of your film, and the final cut of your film is the final draft of your screenplay. So that is so true, because people always think that editing is something that you do while you're with the machine, with the computers, or when you're using the software and you're literally editing. No, editing happens much earlier, from the very first scene that you write. The editing is happening, and also the screenplay doesn't end until the final cut of your film. So it is both edit and screenplay is both merged. It is not like singular units. So editing is something that really drives me about filmmaking. And so, like you said, I knew that it was going to be a huge challenge in terms of editing, because it's such a conversational movie and so many characters in the movie. So, what really helped the editing in a way was the fact that we used sync sound for the movie. So, all the footages that when we were editing, when we took the footage, it looked very real and it looked complete. You understand? Like, otherwise, if the dubbing part was left, that it always limits your edit. You're not very sure of you have to foresee the impact of the dialogue after the dubbing, and then you have to edit, right? So it becomes a slightly difficult task. You don't know the effect of a complete scene unless you have got your sound correct. So because we shot it in sync sound, and so the dialogues were right there. The effect of the dialogues were right there, and this is a conversational movie also. So since we got that right, uh, it really helped the editing part. But also the challenging part was, like, I told my editor that I'm not going to use the clapboard, because yeah, so we have not used clapboard in the movie. So it was very because I didn't want, because all, like I said, all these actors are new people from theater. So when somebody has performed a certain thing and I want a quick change, I when there is a clapboard, the clapboard comes in, there is, so suddenly the person gets out of the character and he has to come back. So if the character called Sanosh has said something and he's in that zone. So I want a small tweak and he's in that zone. I say, no, just change this, go again, shoot. Even sometimes I will not even cut the shot. So, those things. So the reporting has to be really good. The reporting of the from the ADs has to be really good, and all those things, and the clip numbers and the okay shots have to be reported very well. So I asked my editor, whether if I can shoot the movie without using the clapboard. It was going to be really difficult for him, uh, but he said, go ahead. He understood my problem, or he understood why I was going for that. That really helped in terms of the performances. It really helped. And it made the shoot very fast as well. So that was one part. But it became very challenging for him because I had met my editor for once for the narration, and then I met him actually after the shoot. Uh, but he really thought that he could cut the scenes with the costumes. He had forgotten the part that the from the 30th minute of the movie, it is just one costume till the end of the movie. So then when the rushes came and the footage came, he was like, "Oh shit!" Like, now it's like you have to decide on the dates, and it really, fortunately, it helped him because we shot it in a linear way. Most of the part was in a linear way. Otherwise, it would have been a mess for him to figure out which scene, where is it happening, because all the costume, you cannot divide the footage in terms of, otherwise what editors do is, like, they divide the scenes of footage in terms of the costumes, with the change of costumes. So now this movie has just one costume from 30 minutes. So that was one challenging part. But now coming back to the real edit, like, it was the same instruction given to Mahesh as well. Like, the fact that the viewer has to feel that he is right there, and like how everybody has been saying about talking about the acting in Aattam, where people say that they don't look like they're acting, it's just behaving, and it's just looks very spontaneous and real. So I said to Mahesh that that should be the way our editing should be. It should be absolutely invisible. It should be seamless. You should not be able to even. I told him, like, even filmmakers should not be able to figure out how did they do it, like, from where, how did they cut in, how did they merge, and how did they stitch it together. And because the real biggest inspiration for me was films of Asghar Farhadi. Like, I used to wonder how this guy is doing it. How seamless it looked, and like how, even like all of his works, like, all departments of his work, like his acting, the way actors work, or the edit and the cinematography, and how seamless and how single units it felt like. So that was a huge he was a huge inspiration. His films were a huge inspiration. So I had in fact shown Mahesh movies like about Ellie and the past and all, so that he gets kind of a grip of what I'm trying to tell him. And I must tell you, he did an amazing job. Like, the edit took for us about 3 months. The shoot was just 25 days. And we used to sit from morning 10 o'clock to evening 7, 6, 7. And we used to work day in and day out. And he was so committed. Like, and I'm so proud that he won the national award for the best editing. And I'm supremely happy that there was a jury who could identify the edit of the movie, and how the jury that understood how significant the edit of the movie was to the betterment of the film itself.
Right.
So yeah, that's that.
Yeah, definitely. The editing, like if you look at the birth of cinema itself, cinema is has born was born because of editing. The fact that you
Yeah,
could
yeah,
capture something, you could
yeah,
arrange the footage, and then in order to elicit an emotional response, just like how they call it as a
yeah,
definition.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yes, definitely, I completely agree that editors definitely play a huge role in
Huge, huge.
getting out something that, because it's always about what are you feeling right now, what do you
Right, right,
feel after watching this.
right.
So that is always there. I want to talk about the characters now, and I love how you have given some or the other backstories to certain characters. Like for me, the most touching one is how the eldest member of the group, the most revered person, he is dealing with a life threatening disease, and
Right,
he's literally going to leave the world anytime soon. And
right.
his last wish is that, no, I just wanted this. But then of course we see how his mind keeps shifting, which
Right,
ultimately you know
right.
comes as like, which ultimately all we figure out as an audience when the end happens, about the
Mm,
mindset of each and every member of the group. But
mm.
I would love to know from you, like, which is your favorite backstory, or something that you were very excited ki nahi yaar, I really like this backstory of this particular character and I have to include it.
Yeah, it's an interesting question because that was the toughest part of writing the movie. Also, how do I show the backstory of these people? I cannot cut for a flashback, or I cannot start with their lives. I don't have the time because because already it is 2 hours and 20 minutes. When I finished the script, I knew that it's going to be a long movie also. So there is no space for to literally indulge in the backstories, because and also there are 13 people. How are we going to show the backstories of 13 people? It is going to be really stupid if I go into that kind of an exposition. So it has to come as part of the movie. Like when the conflict is intense, it has to come as part of the screenplay, yet it should be very short, yet it should be powerful. And so that is the moment when I was writing, when I knew that at the sequence where Madan is calling all these people to his home for the meeting. That is the only area where I knew that I can show the backstories of quite a number of people, and all other people I it can come through dialogue. So when he's calling, then I knew that I can place Aji at a hospital, and he's talking to his doctor, and the moment he gets a call. And if you ask me, which is all for me, all the backstories of all the people are, for me, it is very interesting, and interesting in different ways. Like how what Prashant is, and what Prashant's backstory. It is spread throughout the movie, where initially Hari gives him a check of 1,50,000, and then that he's in some sort of trouble. He needs money, and then you come to know at the second half of the movie that he has a failed business, some tours and travels business, which has gone bankrupt, and he has a debt of some 10 12 lakhs. And like, say, for Sanush, that from one single scene that he works in a temple, or that like, I wanted, how what is Nandan. Nandan is a driver, and you show him in a Benz car
Right,
when he's getting the call, and you
right.
also show that his wife is there, and just through the dialogue with his wife, when he asks her not to lean onto the seat car with her hair,
Oil. Yeah.
oil on the hair. That, but you cannot, so you have to show these expositions through dialogue. You cannot be very clear, or you should not, it should not look like you're sending out this information. So when Nandan asks his wife not to lean onto the on the seat because of the oil on the hair, you understand that it is not their car. And when he says that, let me ask my sir, this job doesn't have any Sundays or Saturdays and offs, then you understand he's a driver. So all the way I had to explore these backgrounds, it felt very interesting to me and also challenging to me. So, like how Selvan's character is doing a massage while he gets the call, uh, and all those things. So, yeah, I cannot pick a favorite, but it was very challenging, like how we had to put all these things into the screenplay, because that is very important. The background of these people is very important, so that people know how important the money is to them, how important, like from what class of one, from what the financial background they're coming. It is very important. Like if somebody is earning a lakh and a half per month, a European trip or some 5 lakhs to 8 lakhs doesn't mean anything to them. So these are all daily wages workers in terms of their own personal jobs. So that was very important.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And especially this also helps the audience because I personally love those moments in a character when the audience knows the character more than the other characters in the story.
Exactly.
So when this, I'm so sorry, I'm forgetting the name of the character, but the character who takes money from Hari and
Prashant.
Prashant. Prashant's response becomes the most anticipatory because you are like, okay, we know he loves Anjali, he has a
Yeah.
thing for him,
Yeah. Yeah.
he has a thing for her, but he's also taken money, so he
Yeah.
also is kind of supportive. And the way he reacts, that
Yeah.
is when that also helps to unravel the psyche of that character and like a male character in general, you understand okay how this character is going to respond because you know about it but the other characters don't know. So
Correct.
I really like these moments. They just leave me with a lot of excitement when I'm watching a film. Before I move on to my questions, which are of course about the making, I would also love to understand because you are a debut filmmaker, and if anyone at all, because I'm sure that this podcast will be reaching out to people who are genuinely interested in filmmaking. So I would just like to understand that does the thought of writing for a specific duration come into your mind when you are a debut filmmaker ki I have to make sure that this is 220 or 230 without compromising on my script because I have to take this to a producer and this is my debut film, so they need to really greenlit this project. Only then it will create more opportunities for me and the people associated with me. So while you are writing the script, along with making sure that your story and everything is justified, do you also think about the time limit of the story?
Personally, I do, yes, because I am a fan of 2 hour 20-minute films. I'm not a big fan of it. I have heard a lot of many people like they're big fans of movies that are under 2 hours. I'm not a big fan of 90-minute films. I want I want to give a certain time to the movie, and I want to get into that world. And I don't. I'm not a big fan of the Hollywood style of Netflix movies where it's 90 minutes or under 2 hours and everything is fast and everything is just because then it really affects your screenplay. It really affects because the kind of exposition there is a structure. It is very structural. It is not coming from a space of feeling. You're just just adding the right masalas, the right ingredients for the exposition, and there's a conflict exactly on the 20th minute, like all films, exactly on 20th minute. Then there's this three-act structure and all this. It is exactly followed, and it's good. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it is good. It is. I'm not saying it is bad. It is interesting, but I'm not a big fan of it. I'm a fan of the 2 hours 20 minutes and the 2 hours till 2 hours and 30 minutes. I'm fine with it. I really like movies. There is a if you have observed if you've categorized movies in even using good movies using time. There is something very interesting about movies which are 2 hours and 30 minutes. It creates a world. You need the time. To create a certain world, and it helps you to go deep into the characters. Otherwise it just remains as a story. You cannot dig deep into the major characters or certain philosophies or certain perspectives. You need a certain time. Yes, so while I'm writing, I'm aware of the time. Like this is a very conversational movie. So if I have an idea of how much time a page will take, or of those things, because I read my scenes, I have my timer on and all those things. So yes, I am aware of the time, and I see and I feel that it should be like that as well. You cannot write so much so that you because you end up shooting all those things and you're going to lose a lot of money, because I always associate it with stitching. If your body weight is 68 or 70, and you want a shirt, you need a clothing of 2 meters, 2.5 meters, max to max 3 meters cloth. That is enough. So then you give it to the stitching guy, and he does it. You're not going to purchase some 5 meters, 6 meters. Why do you want to do that? And you're unnecessarily wasting the footage or unnecessarily wasting the money. So you need to have a sense of how long your movie is, especially when you're writing it.
Right, right. That is there, absolutely. Uh, and sometimes also you kind of wonder that you watch like a film that is above 2.5 hours, and then you also complain sometimes that, wait, why is this film 2.5 hours? It could have just been cut down, and sometimes stories get dragged. So
Yeah.
I understand where you're coming from, that there is a certain time limit that you should understand, so that the audience don't lose the faith in you as a storyteller, and you
Yeah.
also don't end up unnecessarily dragging the narrative just
Yeah, yeah,
because.
100%,
Right,
100%. That is when the editing comes into play, right? When you that is so important. It is always safer to make a. I'm telling you that also. Like it is always safer to make a shorter movie, like a 2 hour movie, than to make a 2:15 or 2:20 and drag the audience into unnecessary things and bore them with your own some whims and fancies that you want to talk about or explore. That is
right,
very true. If it is interesting, if it is really engaging, 2 hours 20 minutes, 2 hours 30 minutes is absolutely fine.
right, right. Since we are talking about the aspect that, of course, this is a very dialogue heavy film, it is very evident, but which is all something that's also very evident, and you just mentioned about exposition, which, guys, exposition is basically just information that gets revealed in a film. So, and there are different ways of revealing an information. So, since we are talking about this film, which is a very dialogue heavy film, so all the exposition information gets revealed by dialogue. But then, Anand, there are also certain spots where I believe you have chosen deliberately to include a dialogue, where you did not go for like a show don't tell. You are using dialogue to reveal the information, and I believe the
Right.
best example is like when it is revealed that the girl saw Vinay and Anjali kissing each other. You did not show that bit as a visual, that okay, because you would imagine that, oh, there is the girl standing and she is seeing them, and then you again have that visual, because it's like those, I won't say typical reveals, but that kind of becomes an expectation ki, oh, when the biggest reveal is coming ki, okay, I saw them together. So then you might wonder that, oh, the girl was there on a window or anything, and then she saw, and you might see that as a visual, but you did not do that. You conveyed that information with the help of dialogue. So I would love to know about that very particular process where you have to make that choice, that okay, this is the part where I will use dialogue, and I believe यहाँ पे let's go with the dialogue. Is that very instinctive, or is that like a how do you say, trial and error method?
Like there's an interesting thing that you said, like when you talked about when Sudhir comes and says that his daughter saw Anjali and Vinay kissing each other. But if you have observed, in the initial scenes of the movie, when like in the green room sequence, it is a very short cut. If you want to go back and watch it again, you can go. Actually, the girl is watching them dance together. There is a rehearsal scene, right? There is a dance rehearsal scene which happens in the green room before the first play begins. So they're like they're just rehearsing the dance, and then Vinay says that if we come this close, it look like we are kissing each other in the shadow. Okay, he's saying this in the green room, and you see there's a short cut of the scene, short cut where you see that this little girl, Sudhi's daughter, is actually watching them through the through a half open door. Okay, so if you go back, you can see that, and so there is a we included that because that is what she's actually saying. Because she's a kid, she doesn't know how to differentiate between a rehearsal and an actual kiss. So that is what she's saying to. So there is a justification why she is saying that she saw Vinay and Anjali kiss each other. But in the movie, they also end up actually kissing each other in the resort. So for a moment, Vinay believes that, oh, maybe the kid saw us kissing. But then he realizes that probably it is the play that she's talking about. Then he moves to that route of justification. So, like you said earlier, there are a lot of moments in the movie where I have used this whole thing of audience knows this thing, this particular thing, like how you like you know the fact that Anjali and Vinay have kissed each other, nobody else knows, none of the other characters knows, but the audience know. The fact that somebody was watching porn on that night, and Jolie gets this Bluetooth speaker in his hand, and so only the audience knows that Jolie knows somebody has watched porn, and he's also parallelly investigating to find who watched that porn on that night with the Bluetooth speaker. And like you said, like only the audience knows that Prashant has taken money from Hari, or only the audience knows that Prashant has went on to propose Anjali, and so there are secretive things about each characters, almost each character, like, or only the audience has an idea of the fact that Aji is going through a certain critical illness. So there are secretive information about each characters that the audience are holding on to when they're watching the movie, which the characters themselves don't know with each other. So this really adds to the fact. So I took the inspiration from a beautiful parallel that Hitchcock used to say. Like two people are having a conversation, and there's a time bomb under the table. So if you show the audience the time bomb and then you put the conversation, then the conversation is not just a conversation, it is also a ticking bomb. There is a rising tension. So you are listening to the conversation, but you're worried about the bomb also. Like that. So I used those inspirations to use this, spread it across the screenplay. So, like how you said, like the informations that you pass through dialogues, like, maybe like most important thing is like the if you remember, there is a conversation, the first conversation between Anjali and Vinay in the hotel, where she says that, this sort of a thing has happened. But we cut to the middle of the conversation. We start from the middle of the conversation where, like, Vinay is just banging on the table and saying that, why didn't you tell me this on that day? I would have banged him on, like, I would have, just hit him or something of that sort. He's saying, but we are not showing what did she exactly tell, or whom is she talking about. We didn't use the name of Hari or anything of that thing until the point of when Madan reveals it to everybody. So if you have observed, we have completely not used the name Hari till the point where Madan tells everybody that, so that audiences looking into whom are they talking about. So there is, so those sort of things we have done. To hide information is also very important, but you have to do it very cleverly, not making the audience feel that, okay, this guy is playing too clever, or anything of that sort. So that was done consciously. Yes.
Right. And while you were speaking, I just felt like you have actually made a whodunit kind of a thing.
Yeah.
The only difference is that the crime remains as heinous as it can be. Like in whodunits, it's usually killing someone, and
Yeah.
here it is as heinous as, like it's literally assault. So
Good.
there is absolutely no question about how heinous this crime is and how
Right.
unimaginably, like how pathetic this is.
Right.
But you have kind of staged the film in an entire way that it looks
Mm-hmm.
that the audience feels like it's a whodunit, that who committed the crime, who is
Mm-hmm.
actually the person, and then finally with the help of dialogue and the exposition, the reveals, we get to know the person who he is. uh, yeah, very interesting. That's right. I might just stop in the middle just to keep, soak
Yeah.
in
Yeah. No,
everything that you say,
no
because
problem. Yeah.
like you said, like, yeah, this is
Because the
wonderful, wonderful.
whodunit structure was supremely important, because that is what keeps the audience glued to the film. You know, Without that, the film will be a huge disaster. So that is very important, like to keep that structure intact and very honest also. Like, it should be very fulfilling also. It should not be just leading to a point where you have to say something else. So it had to be very interesting, and so yeah, that was the most important decision of the film, I guess.
Right, right. What are some of the interactions or some of the experiences in your real life that have shaped you as a storyteller, and they have also now, translated into making your debut feature film?
Uh, that's very elaborate
We have the time, don't worry.
answer, I guess. Like, I think I was from a very young age, I was interested in theater. Like, I remember like from the age of 10, I started doing theater plays. And also I have done theater for about 16 years as an actor from school. So then like, and I used to write also stories and all. From a very young age, because I had great teachers at school. Like I think I should thank them. Malayalam teachers, like because I was in Andhra Pradesh till the age of 9, and when I came to Kerala, I had no idea of the language because I didn't know how to write or read Malayalam at all. So from the age of 10, because the kind of teachers I got, they gave me this whole newfound love for language and exploring stories and all at that point of time. And I used to remember, like from at the age of 12, I wrote my first story. The story was a short story. It was an autobiography of a pen. So it was written from the perspective of a pen. The pen is, the kid is going to throw the pen in 2 days. He's going to buy a new pen, and it's the last 2 days of that pen. So he's talking about his misery and his journey with the kid, and now he's throwing me away for a new pen and all the stuff. So that was the first story that I wrote. So I think probably somewhere storytelling is basically about empathizing with something else that you're not, right? Or an extension of whatever you are. So probably that the upbringing and teachers and I was actually very fortunate as a child and as a youngster to have been mentored by a lot of people. When I was 17, 18 and all, at that point of time, all my friends were about 40, 45. I never, at that point of time, from the age of 18 to 26, 27, I used to roam around with people who were like double my age, and all my friends were like older people. And so the kind of experiences that you get to hear from those people was amazing. And I've like, done a fair bit of travel. I've traveled across India. Like we did a long 120 days road trip from Kanyakumari to Kashmir. We stayed in Himalayas for about 1 month and all, like Kashmir. And also it was enormous at that period. The age that usually people go to work and do stuff. I have never worked in any at any places before this. So I think all of that has contributed to this whole thing of storytelling, because you have read a lot and you've listened to a lot of stories. You know that every single thing is so complex, and every single thing has different perspectives, and every single thing has so many dimensions of story to it, right? So it is like if I'm going to write a story, and there is a scene where there is an interview between a director and a vlogger like you. Uh, then see, whatever conversations that I'm having with you right now, is some part of it is also going to my subconscious as you as a character and me as a character. So that always happens. It comes with practice, I guess, because wherever I am, whomever I am meeting, I am not just listening to them. I am looking at their, gesticulations. I am observing the psyche from where what from where whatever they're saying is coming from. So it is just from practice, I guess. So that is how this whole storytelling thing comes from.
Right. And also, this is also about how I was just talking about the very same thing. I did like a 4 hour long podcast with this director, Devashish Makhija. I really admire his work.
Oh, he's a very close friend of mine.
Really? Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know him. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's
We
amazing.
met we met in the US for the film festival, like
Oh,
the
wow.
IFLA. So his film was also there, and then we bonded very fast.
Oh,
He's
wow.
the gem of a person. Yeah, I know him very well.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I got the chance to sit with him for an entire day, and
he's a very serious, intense guy.
but I have, from whatever time I've spent with him, and hopefully I stay connected with him, I believe he has a different side as well. And
Yes, of
yeah,
course. A
yeah, yeah, yeah.
lovely guy. He's one of the most truthful persons I've met. He's very intense. He's very truthful.
Right,
He means what he says. So you rarely meet people who actually mean what they say, right? So he's a very I love him.
right, right.
I've not had huge interactions with him, but we got very close to each other in a very short period of time. Yeah.
Yeah, the feelings are mutual, and since we are talking about it, so subtle plug, please do watch that conversation. It's a
Sure,
4 hour
definitely.
podcast, and yeah, so this is something that I was talking to Devashish as well, that somehow in today's day and age, people are not observing, people are just
Right.
looking. They are
Yeah.
not really trying to observe, they are not really trying to notice something, they're just letting things go away.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when you the thing that you said, that being observational, noticing people, not just hearing them but also feeling what they are saying, noticing their
Yeah.
characteristics, how they sit,
Yeah.
how they stand, how they
Yeah.
walk,
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
all of
Mm.
that definitely shapes up. But since
Yeah.
we are talking about films being dialogue heavy, and yeah, so are you, like, in general, a fan of dialogue heavy films like Before Sunset or My Dinner with Andre? Do you
I
generally
am.
like these
I
films?
am. I am. Like I'm a huge fan of Alan Sorkins himself. So like Sorkins writes a lot. Like if you've watched those movies like Jobs or the how did I forget the movie on the social network, and all. It's like he writes heavy dialogues. Like even when I was writing Aattam, it was a huge inspiration where I felt that I conceived Aattam as a action film actually, like like a verbal action film where without action, like how can we make a intense action film where every dialogue to each other has a certain conflict and has a certain punch to it, and there's a give and take, and and every if you have observed one dialogue, one dialogue is taken from the last bits of the previous dialogue, like from the information of the previous dialogue. So people are retaliating with dialogues. So somebody says a certain thing, and there's information in that dialogue. So the person picks a certain word from the dialogue, then gives it back, and somebody else has a different perspective of what he said. So there's a lot of punching going on with each other. So that was how it was considered. As I'm a huge fan of
Right.
conversational films. Yes.
Right. Do you have any more examples of films that have really, inspired you, or dialogue heavy films?
Dialogue heavy films, of course, 12 Angry Men, of course, Before Sunrise, all the series, and Trial of Chicago, the series, the web series, uh, yeah, and most of few of the Malayalam films, you might like, few of the films of Padmarajan films. They're not dialogue heavy films, but beautifully written. All the dialogues of most of the films of Padmarajan are like gems. Like, I don't know whether you've heard of
No,
him.
I haven't. Yes.
You have.
No, no, I haven't heard of him. No.
Padmarajan is a giant of Malayalam cinema. Is one of the greatest screenplay writers that I've ever come across. You should watch his movies. And if you want to know my one of my favorite movies ever, it is Tuvana Tumbigal. It is one of the greatest love stories that I've ever come across on this on the screen, or it is amazing. It is amazing. He's a great writer. You should watch the movie Tuvana Tumbigal and Namakku Parka and Mundiri Toppugal. People who know, or even you can remember it from the
No, no,
podcast itself.
I have your contact. I think I can disturb you if I forget the name.
Yes. So there are yeah, so many of them. I can't suddenly pick many of the films, but
Yeah,
still, yeah,
yeah. I am in that phase right now where I am discovering John Abraham's films. I am discovering Adur Gopalakrishnan films.
yeah.
And there are others, like Padmarajan is definitely
Mm.
someone on my list, the never ending watch list. But
Yeah.
speaking of dialogues, and you also mentioned about Tarantino, who's very,
Yeah,
hell.
Tarantino.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
Tarantino.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
So you mentioned about Tarantino, and he's someone who is famously known for being, hell bent on his dialogues being verbatim, because he literally says it outrightly that, dude, I'm paying you to say dialogues, right? So you
Yeah,
are
yeah,
here. So if you are in my film, you have to say the dialogue every word by word. There should be no change at all.
Yeah.
So when you are making a film with so many people, with 13 actors working
Right.
in the same location at that time,
Right.
and you
Right.
have so much of exposition, so did you stress on the dialogues being verbatim, or did you leave some space for improvisation?
No, I don't leave space for improvisation. At least I limit the space for improvisation very much, because dialogue writing is a thing in itself. It is like, like how you cannot how improvise somebody else, like how an editor cannot improvise on the music part. Like, like nobody. It's a different skill set, and it's a different craft in itself. So when you're writing a dialogue, like I said earlier, like I said, I consider it as as an action film. So there is a certain rhythm with which you write. There are certain words are very important that has to be said in that particular order with that particular punctuation as well. But there might be certain dialogues which are free for improvisation. You're not like hell bent on the fact that everything has to be said the way it is written. Or, like in Aattam, I allowed them the freedom to use their own accents. In Malayalam there are a lot of accents, so they were given their own backgrounds, and so the structuring of almost all dialogues had to be done the way it was written, where certain things at certain points certain actors might find very difficult to pick the rhythm of a certain dialogue, or because there is a word that they're not comfortable saying, or it is not coming easily to the mouth, then you change the dialogue for them when you understand that it is. But it cannot come from a space of improvisation or laziness, or because you find it very difficult to memorize the dialogue. Okay, chalo, then you say whatever you want, but just keep the information. That sort of approach I don't like. I Because it is written with a lot of focus, pain, and understanding. A dialogue is not something that you can just play with easily. I said easily. You can still play with it. You still have the space for improvisation if it is really needed. Yeah. In certain scenes, you really can. Sometimes certain scenes are best if you're just giving it for improvisation. Especially if the actor is also very seasoned and talented. Then it becomes a very. It really depends on. Sometimes certain actors are so talented and so experienced. They can just sometimes the improvisations that they give might be much better than something that you've already written, or it can add a certain layer to it, or especially if there is a bit of comedy involved and all. Sometimes an actor might just add a certain just a word, like say like you might have not written, somebody has said something, and he might just say that what, just a what he might add. And it might come from a very truthful moment. He might have not even thought about it. Then you keep it, because so it is not, you're not there with hard and fast rules. Yeah.
That is there, right? Uh, when you were making this film, did you have any of such conversations internally and externally that, oh, this is my debut film, and considering what is happening, like, of course, you come from Malayalam cinema, who seems to be way more, supporting of new voices coming up, both in theaters and on OTT platforms. So, did you have any of such dialogues internally or externally with, with stakeholders regarding how you should? Did you face any challenges when it came to the theatrical release? Did you have to fight for it a bit, that no, I want this to first be released in the theaters and only then it will come out on OTT? Because generally, you have that, you see films like Aattam, they kind of end up falling into a category of OTT films, that, oh, these are good for OTT, and theaters means spectacle. So an Aattam has spectacle, but in a different way. And I would just like to know, did you have any of those challenges where you had to be, hell bent ki no, no, I want this to be in theaters first and only then it would go on OTT?
Yeah, you know what? Like I told you, I was very fortunate to get a brilliant producer who was not just funding in money, but who was also part of the vision. And he was very clear of how this film is going to turn out, and he was very supportive. And like initially, once the movie was done, we had this thing of we'll take the festival route, because
Right.
this movie has a space for the festivals as well. So then he was ready to invest 1 year for the festivals. So because you're holding on to the movie, right? Your money is not coming back. You're holding on to the money as well, the investment as well. So he was that kind of a producer. So we took the festival route, and then we had this plan. We'll run for the festivals for 1 year, then we'll go with the theatrical release, and then the OTT release. So of course, I knew that it will be difficult to get the number of screens because it's a small movie, not a bigger superstar cast and all. So, but because the producer was great and because we did this sort of marketing, we did a very good, decent marketing in terms of for the kind of movie it is, and the distribution was also nice. We started off with 80 screens in Kerala, which was good, but the toughest part is to get the support from the theater owners. It is really
Right.
difficult because every Friday new movies come, big movies come. They would, if for Aattam we had 70% occupancy on the sixth day, which is really not bad. But we had, like, in Cinepolis, in certain theaters we had 7 shows for a day on the sixth day. But on the seventh day, when a new bigger film comes, they just take it out mercilessly. They cut it down to 2 shows. They don't care whether the film is good. They don't care whether, this is a small film. This is a sort of film that really grows with the word of mouth. You need to give it its time. They don't care for not that they're not aware. They don't care for these things because bigger movies come, full occupancy, fan shows, money is, so it is very difficult in that area. It is very difficult. And I also, this thing of, we also thought of, whether we should release it directly into the OTT. If there was a really good deal from OTT, say, like, I wouldn't have stopped my producer from, because for me, somebody like him coming to do this movie itself was a really big important thing. Nobody would come and invest. Generally, nobody would come and invest in such kind of stories. There's so many new people. It requires a lot of trust and, know-hows about the
Right.
film itself to some for some. So if we had gotten some real good deal for a direct OTT release, I would have agreed. But nothing of that sort happened, and it was really smooth for me to, go into the theaters, and then it did fairly well in theaters. It didn't become a blockbuster, but it did fairly well. Not bad, but then it went on to the OTT, and then everything just surged, and then
Right.
he really into profit also. Then the satellite rights, uh, they were bought, and all those things happened. So he's in a good space. The producer is in a very good space. So I'm very happy with that.
Right, because that also instills a lot of confidence in you as a storyteller that, yeah,
Very, very important.
right, because that's definitely because I was like about to ask you that, uh, like I'm sure this victory of the film of your story has, must have cemented the relationship with your producer that he will be interested in, fund he or like the person, whoever it is, will be interested in coming back and supporting your vision once again, and maybe thinking of a better release like theatrically or on OTT. So, is that has that happened for you that you can now be more independent and think of bringing your stories out in a more liberated way?
Yes, yes, of course, of course. Like even like how you said, the producer, this Joy himself, he's again interested to work with me, and he has. We've already spoken about it. We've jammed a few stories to each other, and all those things have happened. And there are other production houses also have come up and shown interest. Like many of them, many of them have come up and shown interest in all. So. Yes, there is more freedom, I think. In terms, I can think of stories with bigger scale and all, if need be, not for the sake of making bigger scale movies or anything of that sort. But definitely, my next is not going to be a chamber drama, so it is definitely going to cost me more and all those things. So, but still, it'll have the same. I really like the fact that Atom had a certain element of risk in it. Atom had a certain, it had the risk of a failure. So I want to keep that risk in every movie. that really helps you to, give your best and keep your focus intact. So that is important. So even the next will have its share on, will have its fair share of, risks and complexities and challenges to it. So, but now I have more people willing to produce.
That's great. That's amazing. That's always good to hear for a storyteller. Uh, the risk, but it's also, I'm believing that the risk is, I would assume actually, that the risk is also with the producer accepting your idea wholeheartedly. And as a storyteller, you might also come across those moments where you have that thought ki, oh, are people actually going to turn up to the theaters? Will
Yeah.
people actually be interested? So, did you have any of those thoughts while you were making Aattam? Uh, did any of those thoughts influence the way you wrote the story, or you had full, absolute confidence that I know the story that I'm telling, and I know once it reaches the audience, it is going to blow up?
No, see, what happens with me is like I don't think about audience too. I think about the individual, the singular audience who's watching the movie. So when I'm writing, obviously the audience is there, but that audience is just me myself as the audience. See, I'm also an audience, right? For all the other movies, I'm also an audience. So I love all kinds of movies, all kinds of good movies. I like it. So I'm that audience when I'm writing. So I don't think about the actual audience when I'm writing or when I'm shooting or editing. It doesn't occur to me at all. And I really like to keep it that way. But once the edit was finished, once the final mix of it was done, then you start worrying about about the marketing part and how to make it reach to more people, and how then you start to have all these anxieties of whether people will turn up, whether people will like it. You are never sure of that thing. You are never no I don't think anybody is ever any director is ever sure about that thing, whether it'll blow up or anything of that sort. If so I actually today I wish it had done more numbers in theater, like few more crores would have really done, would have been greater, because that is like more viewership. Because at the end of the day, I want people to watch the movie in theaters. There is nothing more beautiful than watching the movie in theaters. So but fortunately it did really well in OTT. And
So, since we are talking about the audience, I would love to touch upon the feedback, the feedback that one receives. Uh, See, cinema, the biggest beauty of cinema is subjectivity. The
right.
ability to interpret a story in different ways makes
Mm.
cinema such a powerful medium of storytelling.
Mm.
But
Mm.
as a creator, as a storyteller, sometimes come across interpretations of your ideas that might not really work with you, and sometimes they just sound absolutely vague and you don't agree with them. So
Mm.
I don't know how to ask you this, but like, what are some of the most ridiculous remarks that you have received about the film because of how it might have gotten interpreted by the audience?
Right. Mm, I have not personally. Yeah. One thing I remember. Like there was a program, to with a large audience. Some convention was happening.
Okay.
Art convention was happening. I was there, and we were invited as guests. And
Hmm.
some girl stood up and said, like,
Hmm.
this movie is celebrating rape culture. And I was like surprised, like it is celebrating rape culture. Like she was saying that, you're using the thing of rape and sexual assault to make movies and make money. And I was like, okay. And she was like, this is so anti, the movie itself is so anti-women because you are not showing the culprit and you are trying to rescue the culprit from being caught, or something of that sort. And then I said, no, I don't agree with you, but still you're free to feel whatever you want to feel.
Sure,
Like,
sure.
so that is one thing that like when somebody said it was celebrating rape culture and all, I thought it was slightly uh, ridiculous. But other than that, I've not received any. I've heard very, like, interesting interpretations of, like who did it and all. There are the few videos in YouTube where like they say the ending explained, and like like who did it and all this stuff, finding the culprit and all those things. That part of interesting things I've heard, and I've heard like almost everybody named in different videos of who the actual culprit was and all. Um, Apart from that, nothing really. Nothing really. All all fine. Yeah.
And what has been your biggest learning from this experience of making Atom as a director?
Mm, I'm much more relaxed and calm now because I'm done with the first movie. Because your first movie is a huge challenge, right? Because like it's been, as I did my first movie when I was 35. So I mean 34. Now I'm 35. So it's a long it's a long career. It's this cinema is not something that you can just decide on one day and do the next day. There's a lot of journey, and there's this whole culmination of everything to this making of your first movie. Now nobody is going to ask what are you what are you doing, why are you not working or anything of that sort. So I'm much more relaxed, and there's some sort of uh, mm, freedom now, and some sort of settlement and peace now in me. I think I'll be in much less pressure when I'm doing my next, or I'll be less strict with people when I'm doing my next, I think so. uh, the experience has been great in a way, because something, it is surreal, to be very honest, Parush, it is very surreal, because something that you think, something that you just write in your room on a paper, when it comes to light, and even when you're shooting, I've had so many surreal moments, like when I was just watching the art guys and people working on a set, and the juniors have come, the crowd has come, and everybody is there for the shoot, and you're just uh, stepping back and you're looking at everything, and then you see that there's a sense of power, that power of creation. You've just written something, and people are manifesting it outside, they're working hours and hours on it, and it is a very surreal feeling. And then when it comes out to people, it is a very anxious process when the day of release and all those things. So and when people receive it, and finally, now that all the national awards have happened, then it gives you a certain confidence. I must admit that it gives you a certain assurance that the line of thought that you had for a long time. See, the line of thought, or the line of expression that I have chosen for my filmmaking is not something that came up with Atom. It has been there for so many years, right? It's been a journey. So the line of thought that you had was right, or not just right, or it is it is reaching to people. It is reaching to Rasikas. It is engaging enough. It is at least finally culminating to some art. Like I initially said, how I have a lot of uh, uh, what you call mm, faith, or a lot of respect for art. So when you realize that you're falling in that line, at least to a small bit, it feels great. There's a lot of assurance that comes with this.
Right. And what was your biggest learning as a director on set? Like you managed such a large crew, and
Mm.
the setting was completely different. Like you have been in theater for 15
Yeah.
years, more than 15 years,
Oh, all right.
and then you switch to the medium of cinematic storytelling. So
Right, right.
what were some of those learnings that you would like to share as a debut director, especially?
See, like I called all my actors like 1 month, 1.5 months before the shoot, and I told them that we were all friends for 20 years. I told them that I'm not your friend anymore. So you can be friends. So I'm separating myself from you guys from today, and it is to take up this role, because in cinema time is money, and only the director knows the complete vision of the movie. Nobody else on the set in any film, nobody will ever have a complete vision of the film. He knows that the movie had this number of scenes has to be shot today, no matter what. It cannot go to the next day. and we don't have the location for one more day, or there are like n number of critical pressures that come to you when you're directing a movie. And like direction is not something that you're like doing as some, it is not a logistical thing, it is a very creative process in itself, because you have to take hundreds of creative decisions every day. And also you have to manage practical things. So you have a problem with your cinematographer, you have a problem with your sound guy, there is a problem between the sound guy and the cinematographer, there is an issue with the location. We have to, there's suddenly out of nowhere rain is coming, or you have unforeseen things happening every now and then, and nobody actually cares for the pressures that a director goes through, because as a director you cannot complain to anybody else, because that will make you very weak, because everybody is looking towards you for decisions. Everybody on sets, it's the same with all directors. So that was a very interesting thing for me, because this is my first movie. And so like I said, I told them that I'm not going to be friends with you anymore till the end of the movie. And I am a very strict person on set. I'm a very, very strict person on set, because I push people to give their best. I want people to have a certain focus on set. I don't want my set to be playful, especially this sort of a movie, because at the end of the day, the movie has to come out as and how you intended it to be, or it has to come out good. Because if, at the end of the day, if everyone is saying that, oh, we had such a blast, had a great time during the shoot, but the movie is such a meh, it's like a not great. If it is just forgotten, then nobody cares, right? Only who loses, everybody else moves to the next work or next thing. Only the producer and the director is in loss. So I hate that aspect of of these things. So I am a very strict person on set. So yeah, and I feel like everybody is together now with each other, because the movie has turned out good. So this is also a business, and the film industry is such that everybody is together only as long as there is success. So all those aspects come in, and I am absolutely responsible to my producer, because I really, really truly care for his money. And people have no idea, if somebody is late for 1 hour, like on an average every day you're burning about 6 to 7 lakhs, if not more. Like on a very small movie like Aattam, you're burning about 6 to 7 lakhs per day, with everything included. So if somebody is late by 1 hour, if somebody is careless about calling someone, or somebody is careless about a particular set, or if something gets delayed by an hour, you're burning so much of money, and sometimes you cannot go to the next day with that particular scene. So I cannot afford such lack of focus or carelessness on set. So you have to assume a certain role. People might like it, people might not like it. I cannot care much about it. You have to assume a certain role and perform it, because I've also done a lot of theater. That really helps to to just put on a role and perform it till the end of the movie. Yeah.
Right, that is there. That is there. My final question, which I believe I cannot forget, and I think this is my responsibility to ask you this question. Uh, so, we have been seeing a lot of revelations being made about the Malayalam industry because of the Hema Committee report, and I just wanted to ask you, because see, whose names were called out, what is happening, that is all out in the news, that is available for the public, and I don't even want to get there because we all know what is out there. But I wanted to understand, since you belong to the fraternity, so I would like to understand, like, what is right now, after these revelations, the current environment amongst the artist. What is like the emotional environment right now? Because of course we are seeing a lot of actors from Malayalam industry, from Malayalam cinema, coming out and expressing their concerns about what is happening. So while these revelations are being made, what is the emotional environment right now amongst the artists of the industry? Because when we say artists, we are covering everything. We are
Right.
covering everyone. We are covering the technicians, we are covering even the spot boys, the best boy, the
Right.
everyone who works on a film,
Right.
irrespective of their title or their post, is an
Hmm.
artist. So
Right.
I would love to know, like, what is happening right now in terms of how are, I won't say people feeling, but I think you get my question, what I'm trying to
Right,
ask.
right, right. One thing, Baurish, is that I was not part of the fraternity at all because I have not worked in Malayalam films even as an assistant director. So the only film that I worked was in Hindi. I worked with Imtiaz Ali in Tamasha. Other than that, I have not worked in Malayalam industry at all. So the only proper Malayalam film set that I have seen is the sets of Aattam. So the only Malayalam movie actor that I knew before this was Vinay Foot. Or so my experience with the industry or the fraternity, as you call, is very limited to really talk in detail about what they're feeling now or anything of that sort. Because still, till even now, I am not connected to too many people. But like now the report is of course of some serious concern. It is a very serious issue. It requires systemic change. There is no doubt about it. There is not just Malayalam cinema, every film industry, uh, just that the industry, we've been led by powerful women, and the course of WCC and all really helped to bring out these reports and all. So it is quite evident in Malayalam industry. That's the only thing. That's the only difference. Every industry, I'm sure, has its fair share of systemic problems. So we definitely need systemic changes that has to come where the workplace as much where the workplace safety is ensured. There is no doubt about these things. But if you're asking me what the general feeling is, of course, I think this should lead to a sense of more alertness on set, and where there is where people are not sexual exploitation is something that is an unforgivable thing. That is no way excusable. So the people are more alert now these days. The trends were already changing for good, and now that this thing is there, but I also hope that there are no false accusations happening as well to kill the moment. So now there is a movement. Now there is a very sensible movement happening, and which I hope will really bring out some policy changes, at least from government level, and not just in film industries, across all workspaces. Some strict actions are taken for ensuring safety, but I also hope that because the whole media is focused on naming the people and finding the masala side of things, and if the whole discussion goes to another zone about because the media is handling it, for me media is not handling it in a great way. So it is very important. I hope that the whole discussion and the whole focus comes back to the need for a systemic change. And I hope some policies are brought out, and it is applied in every set. Some rules and regulations, or some panel who's looking onto what is happening on set. And because this is also one more thing, because a film set, like I've said in so many interviews, a film set is a temporary gathering of so many people that you really don't know what. So only people who have worked in film sets know how it works, right? It could be a gathering of 70 people, 100 people. You really don't know everybody. You don't know what they're carrying in their minds, what their darkest corners of the mind consists of. You don't know. So it really becomes difficult for the filmmaker to take responsibility of the issues that are happening on the set. Then you can never make a movie if you're going to spend a lot of time in problem solving, because there are like hundreds of problems every day. You have no idea. Like, you have to be on, like, every day you're dealing with so many things. So if you're just dealing with the problems, then you can never make creative decisions. So you will never have the space to be, have to exercise a creative freedom, or, to be in the space to make creative decisions. So you have to have a separate body for itself to look into things. So and the production house, I guess the production house and the associations associated with the production houses have to come up with a system where there is somebody to take care of those things.
Right.
And I really hope those things come up.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And because, yeah, I completely understand. And I genuinely feel that, like you said, it's something that has, there is no scope of forgiveness. And I would like to know from you that since you are making a film which has a single female actor, so what are some of the things that you as the captain of the ship implemented along with the stakeholders on set that you believe can be a great example for each and every storyteller, irrespective of the industry, to follow, especially when you are working with female actors? What is this something that you made sure for the character of Anjali to feel when that actress, I'm so sorry, I'm forgetting her name, when the actress
Zarin.
Zarin. So when Zarin was on set, what are some of the things that you, as a director, as the captain of the ship, made sure that these are some ground rules and you have to follow them? Because sure, we are creatives and everything, but we are also human beings. So what are some of the rules or some of the things that you followed to make sure that everything is, the environment does not need any questioning at all, and some
Yeah,
things that
like,
can become, great examples for everyone to learn from?
I don't know whether I don't know whether they're great examples or anything of that sort. Like, the only thing that you can end up doing is to give a certain sort of assurance through communication. Like with Zarin, we even had a female AD with us, so that really helped with a lot of communications and stuff. And they were also staying together, and this is a very small movie, so we cannot afford big hotels or anything of so. Even all the guys, all the men were staying in a lodge in a very small, which had a rent of 300 rupees per day. So it's a very small movie, so you cannot afford so many other things. But within the limited capacities, you try to provide them the best stay. You try to avoid unnecessary conversations with other people involved in the movie. So you give them the space to be in a particular space and interact less with people that are not necessarily needed for any sort of interaction or that they need to communicate. And with Zarin, ended up having a lot of conversations with her, like communicate. I said that anything you need, any conversations, anything, any need that you have on film set or any communications, you can have it directly with me. There was nobody in between us. So, and there was a certain friendship that was developed also because we did about 30 to 35 days of rehearsals and all those things. So over time, she's a fantastic person, not just a fantastic actor. She understood the limitations of the movie, the limitations of the, like, especially in terms of budget and all. So she was really ready to adjust to the the limited comforts that we were able to provide and all. So I don't know whether we did anything great, but of course I did have a meeting with all the people in the movie, like especially the actors and the main technicians and all, saying that not a single incident of disrespectful behavior should happen. Those instructions were given. But you can never know. That is the point. You can never know what happens because there are so many people. You cannot talk about these things to everybody or every day. You cannot go to personally go and talk to everybody because there's so many people involved. You will never, a filmmaker or director, even you say the captain of the ship or anything like that, so you will never come to know about these things most of the time. When it happens at some corner of the set with some people, you'll never know. There are like Aattam never had so many junior artists and all, but in certain movies, and there'll be so many junior artists, so many people involved that you will not come to directly in contact with, or you might not be talking to them also as a filmmaker. So I don't know whether there is anything particularly that I did which could be set as a good example, but I think to the best of to my abilities or to the abilities of the production, I have kept the actress, in a space of great comfort, and possibly I gave a space for her to come to me directly to for anything she needed. Probably that is the best I have done. Yeah.